What is up, people? Just doing a commentary today because Assassin's Creed 3 comes out and I'm really excited. The game looks awesome, and I know many of you already understand the game takes place in the American Revolution, but I just want to make sure that you're clear that this is historical fiction that this game is built on, okay? The stuff that happens in Assassin's Creed 3 didn't really happen, and I just want to make sure that you all know what really went down during the American Revolution. So today is a history lesson by yours truly on the American Revolutionary War. Let's begin. So, the Revolutionary War started back in 1775. Now, this was back in the day, before electricity, cars, Xbox, all that stuff. You know, life sucked balls back then, and the colonists were just looking for a reason to start killing people. Problem was, they already murdered most of the Indians, so they needed to find someone else. And it just so happened that the British Parliament had just unleashed the Stamp Act of 1765, imposing a taxation on the colonists' stamps. Now, this was the 1700s. There were no email, no telephones, no Facebook. If you wanted to reach someone, you had to hire a motherfucker with a horse, okay? To bring them a letter. So, as you can probably tell, taxing stamps was serious shit. So, the British claimed that they had the right to tax the colonists because they were British subjects. And the colonists are all like, motherfucker, I come all the way over here on a boat, under the impression that the earth is flat, risk sea monster attack, and kill a small village of Indians, just to get away from your bullshit. And now you're telling me that I have to give you my money. Just wasn't flying. And then they did the most logical thing they could. They got stoned out of their mind and threw all the British tea in the harbor. A couple days later, British troops started showing up in Boston, and they're like, okay, where's the tea? And the Americans are all like, I don't know what you're talking about, my British friend. Maybe you should get out of here before something bad happens, you dig? Now, King George is back in Britain, and he is just flipping shit. So, he appoints some general named Thomas Gage to govern Massachusetts, and this dude is a total buzzkill. I mean, he makes the colonists pay taxes on soda, and he outlaws Coca-Cola, so they have to buy that generic shit. It's just terrible. And one day, the Americans just had enough. They were going to go and spray paint a giant dick right on the front of the governor's house. But then one guy stood up and he said, wait a minute. This pointless vandalism isn't really getting our message across. Let's just start shooting motherfuckers. And everyone's like, yeah, this guy's got a good point. Let's do this, yeah. And then another guy stands up and says, yeah, we should rape them too. And then the first guy's like, whoa, no, that's just too far. Let's just shoot them. And that's what they did. So the colonists started a war in opposition of this radical new idea that we should have to pay taxes. And King George is like, if people find out that the Americans won't pay taxes, then nobody is going to agree to pay my new masturbation tax. And he rallied the troops. Luckily, these were soldiers from the most advanced and tactical military force in the entire world. So naturally, he told them all to wear bright red jackets and stand in a straight line on the battlefield. Around this time, some of the boys back home were in the middle of writing this new document. It was called the Declaration of Independence. There was John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, John Hancock, George Washington, all those cats. And they said, from now on, everyone will be created equal. And then one guy in the back stood up and said, well, what about slavery, killing Indians, and women's rights? And George Washington is like, could you please not interrupt me? We're talking about taxes. And they all signed it. Then Washington said, dibs on being president, called it first. And Thomas Jefferson's like, all right, fine, but you have to be on the $1 bill. I get the 20. And it was a deal. At one point, King George tried to corrupt President Washington and made him a deal that he could be king in America in exchange for his acceptance of British rule. But Washington said, I will not make an alliance with you. You can suck my dick. Now, another important element of the story is Paul Revere. Now, Paul Revere had a special talent. He could speak to horses. In fact, they called him the Horse Whisperer. And one day, his horse Coco said, Paul, we need to go warn the Americans that the British are coming. And he did. Now, this war went on for a good 7 years, and the Brits finally realized that it took too long to supply troops across the ocean. And then France showed up and is all like, fuck you, King George. I'm sick of your shit too. Tag team with America. And America's all like, thanks, France. If some pissed off dude with a retarded mustache ever tries to kill all the Jews and take over your country, we got your back. And that's when Britain surrendered. And it took some time, but after a while, America and Britain became friends once again. They invite each other over on the weekends for barbecues and reminisce about the past, but mostly they learned that there were plenty of other countries that could fuck up together in unity as brothers. God bless America.